Hey guys, welcome back to our Q&A series. On this episode, we're going to talk about why Allah punishes us by sending us to hell and why He rewards us by sending us to heaven. As we do in most of our videos, I'm going to first start off with this analogy. A wise king. A wise king would punish his servants when they disobey him and reward his servants when they do obey him. Now, if he didn't have these two powers of punishing and rewarding, what would that mean? That would mean that he's powerless, right? And this is not fit for a wise king. Now make the scale larger and let's talk about Allah. Allah is known to be the all-powerful. And you can't be powerful without having the power to reward and the power to punish. Now let's say that you're not comfortable with this whole punishment and rewarding system of ruling, right? Well, we do have alternatives. There's two. The first option being that Allah doesn't, punish you for your wrongdoings. Well, this will result in an unchecked power for all human beings. And the other choice being that Allah doesn't even give you the ability to do a wrongdoing, so punishment is completely out the window. Well, you could see why the alternatives are pretty undesirable. The first one completely destroys balance, there's no checking of power. And the other one, well, it just takes away your free will, which is, horrible to think of. Now, let me give you another analogy. You get a job at the bank, right? Why did your boss hire you? The sole purpose of why he hired you is because so you can work, right? That's the whole purpose of why you're there in the first place. Well, let's say you do work. What's the boss going to do to you? He's going to give you a salary. He's going to reward you. With that reward, you're going to be able to feed your family and have nice things. But let's say you don't do your work. You slack off. Well, he's not going to give you your salary. And you're not going to be able to put food on the table for your family. That's the punishment. Well, think of it the same way with Allah. Now, we can connect the analogy with the question that we have at hand. As we mentioned in other videos, we were created to worship. From the beginning, Allah told us that we were created to worship. It clearly states in the Quran multiple times. Well, in the analogy, in your job application, it clearly told you what tasks you have during work, right? Okay, well, Allah clearly stated in the beginning that there's paradise and hell. And whether you do good deeds or you do wrongdoings, that's where you're going to end up. And on your job application, it tells you this is your hourly wage. If you work, you get that hourly wage. If you don't, you're not going to get it. Okay, well, think about it this way. Allah gave us free will, right? Free will, so we can do wrongdoings, we can do good deeds, right? And that's what's going to result in us going to either hell or paradise. And as we mentioned before, we are in a test right now. We are being tested, and that test is going to result in hell or heaven. Just like how if you do good on a test in college, you'll pass, you'll get a degree, or if you fail tests in college, you're not going to get your degree. So why are we so fast to accept the rules of our bosses and just start questioning the rules that Allah gave us? If you ask me personally, I think we should question both and reason with both. And that's what we have done. Now, we do have to talk about categorizing sins. Sins go into two categories. There's one that affects you only, and there's one that affects others. So let's say you missed a prayer, right? That's only going to affect you, right? But let's say you lie or you stab someone in the back, metaphorically or literally, right? That's a sin and it affects multiple people. So Allah doesn't just punish you for breaking His rules, He also fights for the justice of innocent people who you might have affected wrongfully. And you may be thinking, oh, you're saying the eternal life and eternal punishment. It just seems so drastic, right? Because we live such a short life, like average human life is 70 something years, right? And you're saying, well, if I commit a sin here in that 70 year, you're saying I'm gonna get punished for eternally, right? It might sound a little drastic in your head. However, think about it this way. Let me give you my third and last analogy. A court case. So there's a judge and you commit a crime, right? And most likely the judge is going to give you a jail sentence for the crime, but it's not going to be as long as how it took to do the crime, right? If it takes you a minute to do a crime, you're not going to get a minute sentence in jail, right? Well, you have to think about it the same way, just on a larger scale with our whole lives, with our relationship with Allah. You know, if we commit a sin that's just so horrifying, so horrible, we deserve to really, get punished eternally, not just for a small period of time. There's even times when in court cases when the judge would appoint a jail sentence for multiple life sentences. And you think like, we only have one life, how are you going to do multiple life sentences? Well, yeah, the crime was just so horrible, right? That the person deserved multiple life sentences. And well, Allah actually makes that happen. If someone deserves something really bad, they're going to get it. If we did a sin that's just horrifying and it deserves multiple life sentences, then we're going to, go through those multiple life sentences of punishment. That's just the reality, and Allah is only being just with that situation. However, we are pretty lucky because we do make mistakes. We're human, right? We can commit a sin at times, and 100% of the time we actually are going to commit a sin. There's no such thing as, a person without a sin. But we, again, like I said, we're lucky because there's a difference between, the boss, the judge, and Allah. Allah has mercy. He is the All-Merciful. If you don't go to your job for a couple of days and don't even contact your boss, odds are you're fired. If you commit a crime that's just horrible, odds are you're going to go to jail immediately. You can ask for forgiveness however many times you want, you're still going to go to jail. However, that's not the same situation with Allah. And His names are proof of the fact that He is all-merciful. Take Al-Rahim, for example. It means the all-caring. And Al-Rahman, which means the all-merciful and compassionate. Now, you might have heard these two names before. It's in Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, right? It means, in the name of God, the all-merciful and compassionate. And we say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim before we do most things, right? Because it's such a fundamental thing. Allah is the all-merciful and compassionate. He's not like your boss. He's not like the judge. You can commit a sin and He will forgive you for it. That's what's truly important, because punishment is a horrible thing and the afterlife is eternal. And when you think of, rewards and punishment, hell and paradise, it almost seems like, oh, okay, that's the purpose of life. That's the purpose of humans, right? Oh, we're going to go to either hell or heaven. It's not. It's kind of like a reminder on your phone, hell and heaven. Because it's not just like the determining factor of your life. No. Your purpose on life is worshiping Allah. Heaven and hell are just reminders, telling you, oh, okay, hey, guess what? If you don't worship, this happens. If you do worship, this is what happens. Our purpose in life is worshiping Allah. That's what we really have to, take a look at. Now, to, conclude everything, I'm going to give you one last name, not analogy, don't worry. Al-Adl. This means the just. Allah is the most just person. Not every person is going to go to hell, but also not every person is going to go to heaven. Everyone's going to get what they deserve, right? You're going to have a court case at the end, and that court case is going to be perfectly accurate and perfectly just. It's incredibly simple. You worship Allah and you get rewarded. You don't worship Allah, you do wrong things in life, you have room for mistakes. Allah will forgive you to a certain point. However, if you pass that room of mistakes, if you go over it, then you are going to get punished in the afterlife. It's that simple. A leader needs to have the power of punishing and rewarding his servants. And Allah is the most just leader. And we have to be incredibly grateful for that.